It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is September 10th. 10th day of September, 2025. It is the B Block, right, John?
That's exactly right.
And what do we do in the B Block, John?
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
John is so good at that. It's so good at that. And what do we start off with?
It's number 3.
National story. ICE attacked in upstate New York. Okay, if you've seen this, there's a picture of one of the ICE mobiles. It's their SUV, which is marked with ICE markings, has ICE license plate on the whole bit. They slashed the tires. Okay, John, what do you think about this? Do you think...
I think it's great. I think that it shows, I think normal people throughout the country see this and say, oh, look, an attack on people trying to uphold the rule of law. There goes the left again, hating law and order and standing up for crime.
Well, see,
so I think it's good. I mean, I think it. I hate to see it, but like in terms of public sentiment, it shows that the left doesn't have any ideas about this except let's go slash some tires.
Well, and the other thing is now they're complaining you're rounding up these poor immigrants at Home Depots and at various places where they hang out, bodegas and things like that. Okay, think about that for a minute. If you're going to catch a bank robber, you don't go to McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? You go to the bank to catch the bank robber. Get what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. Yeah, so why wouldn't you go to Home Depot? It's a shame there's no place where you could just go, like, ideally would be a Home Depot with a tree underneath it so that a guy could sleep with a bottle of water like they do when they're doing lawn care, you know?
I told you the guy I knew.
What does he say about their work ethic versus Americans, Brad? Tell the story.
Never mind, John. John's going to...
How does your friend compare the Mexicans' work ethic with Americans? Do Americans check their phone and Mexicans don't, Brad? Tell that story.
John, my guy I knew, it was one of my leads groups. He ran a lawn care company, and he said, give me the Mexican guys all day long. The American guys show up for work hungover. They show up for work, tired. They didn't get enough sleep. They got to call their girlfriend every 20 minutes. They got to smoke a cigarette every 30 minutes. They got to take a bathroom break, even though they don't have to go to the bathroom. They're just trying. He says the Mexicans show up and they work all day long, and they never complain. They never smoke. They never call their girlfriend. And he said, give him a crew of Mexicans and a group of Americans. And he says the Mexicans will outwork the Americans 2 to 3 to 1. That's what he said. This is the guy that runs.
Nielsen reported that on that too, Brad. They had their own stats about it. They say that if you hire a Mexican, they come up with new anecdotes every day. If you hire an American, they tell the same 10 stories every day on the air.
John, I need to come up with some new stories. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Okay. Is it time for number 2?
It is, Brad.
It's time for Brad's number 2.
Yes. Say it again.
It's time for Brad's number 2.
I want to get your opinion on this. This is like Brad, asking John's opinion on all 3 of these things this morning, okay? You don't even know what number 1 is. I'm going to ask your opinion on this as well, too. Trump firing people, specifically in the news lately, has been he's trying to get the Fed lady hired because apparently she allegedly lied on her mortgage application. And now he's trying to get the FTC lady fired. And if you've read this story, he fires her and she gets kicked out of her office building. And then some court reverses it and she goes back to work for a week. Have you read this crazy story?
No, I haven't read it at all.
It's bizarre. She goes back to work for a week. And then another court says, no, Trump's right. She should be fired, and she's fired and stuff like that. I'm thinking to myself, there's 2 things. First off, I think it's a bad look for Trump. And especially the crazy thing was, he fired somebody recently who was like on the job for like 4 days or something like that. I mean, is this just him trying to do deja vu of his old TV show, The Apprentice, where you're fired? Remember he did that where he fired everybody. But here's the other thing. If the President of the United States calls up John Combest and says, John, that Brad and John show sucks. I think it's demeaning for you to be on it. You're fired. Don't ever do that show again. Are you going to say, well, Mr. Trump, I have this duty to Brad that I have to be on the show? Or are you going to say, Mr. Trump, thank you so much. I will obey what you say. Which one are you going to do?
I am going to say, hey, look, you called Andrew Bailey and offered him a job, and Brad didn't like that. So I think I just have to disobey you, Mr. President. I think a normal human being turns down a job offer from the president of the United States, the leader of the free world, and digs their heels in and says, I'm not leaving. I'm sticking to this job until I'm dead.
I guess my thing in this is I think he's micromanaging, and I don't think that's right for the president of the United
It
States.
seems like it, Brad. I think a reasonable person would look at it, even you and reasonable people would look at it and say, he's micromanaging, let people do their job. And I guess if you're a Trump partisan, you say, you need to be on board with the entire agenda and what the president wants, or get out.
But here's the flip side of it, because I'm going to give you both sides of this equation. Go back in your days at Monsanto, and the president of Monsanto, there's somebody in, let's say, department, let's say that's in the head of chemistry in Monsanto, and the president of Monsanto wakes up one morning and goes, you know what, I've had a problem with that guy who's the chief chemist. I'm going to fire him today. And he brings him in his office and he says, you're fired. Okay. Does that guy go to a federal court and say, hey, the boss fired me. I want you to reverse his decision? What happens, John?
The guy packs his stuff up in a cardboard box. Now, a private sector employee is probably a little bit different. There's probably more protections for a federal employee, aren't there?
Yeah, but still, I think this shows the fact that you don't hear that much about it. In the first term, Trump was always talking about the swamp. You don't hear the swamp that much. Let's be honest. The swamp exists at every governmental agency on every single level.
Depending on how you define the swamp, you're right, Brad.
Because
if you consider it the establishment and the career bureaucrats who have a vested interest in the status quo,
right,
then the swamp exists at every level of government.
And to a certain extent, let's be honest, a lot of the federal employees, just like teachers, and I know we get pushed back on this, teachers are just riding out their time so they can get their nice big fat pension, right? Let's be honest. Isn't that the case with it? Do they retire with any wealth, Brad? I hadn't heard that yet. Dave Ramsey. Okay, Dave.
I think there's a little Mexican out there that's willing to put together a new anecdote about teacher wealth and not just rely on a 14-year-old Dave Ramsey story.
No. That Dave Ramsey's relatively new. I think it was in the last 3 or 4 years. It's not that
I
old.
know. I'm giving you a hard time.
Yeah. If John's referring to the fact that Dave Ramsey redid The Millionaire Next Door, and the number 3 millionaire in the United States are teachers. But yet, when you talk to teachers, we don't make any money, we don't get paid, we don't do blah, 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 blah. But
I think your teacher friends just do that to troll you because they've heard the story for the 4.5 years that you did the show with Shelley. They heard it every week there. And at this point, I think they're doing it to troll you, Brad.
John, did you ever look at the guy from the Post-Dispatch? You probably know which guy it is because you know all those people. The guy that puts together the list every year of all the public employees in the state of Missouri. Have you ever looked through that, see what the people are
Josh
making?
Renaud, yeah.
Have you ever?
No, I don't look through that because we've discussed and argued about. I generally don't pay attention to other people's money issues.
Well, I do because I'm paying them. You're paying them. You don't care, but I do. I'm paying them. Most of them, I shouldn't say most. A lot of them are making 6 figures. A lot of the teachers are making 6 figures.
Yeah, which is barely enough to get by in 2025. Like if you're a normal person, Brad. But
then John,
I don't know if your idea of a luxurious meal is driving to Lindbergh and eating a Domino's pizza, then you probably don't need 6 figures.
That was a very nice Domino's, John. I mean, I
bet it was.
It was probably
Brad.
one of the nicest.
Beautiful, and you left before the gunshots, didn't you?
John, it was much better than the Domino's in Chesterfield. I mean, the Florissant,
right?
The Florissant. Oh, I'm telling you, you ever eat that Domino's there on a long road right down the valley? Little tiny place, sort of cramped.
I have picked up a pizza there before, Brad.
John. The one on North Lindbergh, if I'm not mistaken, I think I remember the address. I think it was 8468 North Lindbergh. You could have put 5 of those long road Domino's inside the Florissant Pizza.
Wait, are you saying that people are willing to pay more for property in Chesterfield than they are in North St. Louis County? Wow, Brad. Next thing you're going to tell me that if you blindfolded somebody and you showed them a house in Kirkwood and then you took them off Hudson Road, they'd be like, whoa, this house should be worth at least $2 million.
No, not Hudson Road, Brown Road. You drive up and down Brown Road. John, see, what's sad about John is John has forsaken his heritage. John has forsaken his heritage.
Yeah, and I'm not blinded by naive North County nostalgia.
John's like...
And I live in the real world, and I don't say... Oh, wow. Remember in 1978 when this was a great street? Hold on. Gunshots.
John's like the guy who immigrated from Germany, and you'd say to him, hey, how was Germany? Oh, terrible country. Terrible country. They don't know how to build anything, and the idea of them doing precision machining like with BMWs and Mercedes, they actually don't make them there. They make them in another country and they bring them in because nobody in Germany knows how to do any engineering. They're all dummy and they're
one of us until the year 2022. One of us got his haircut once a month in Spanish Lake. Was that you or me, Brad?
Well, see, John.
I mean, I support the local economy. I'm for the little guy. I'll go to Great Clips somewhere else, but I won't go to Spanish Lake to get my haircut.
I stopped going to North County when Ronnie retired. So that's when Ronnie's Barbershop, who sponsored my original Little League team, and going back in time, this was so cool. I wish I had it back again. Ronnie's Barbershop, the letters were individually sewn on the uniforms. What would that cost today? Can you imagine what would that cost?
Well, it's an impossible question because nobody knows how to sew anymore, Brad.
I sew, John. Do you know that? I still sew.
I could believe that, yeah. I once asked a lady friend within the last few years if she could sew a button for me, and she said, "What?" And I said, "I'll do it myself."
John, you should ask me. I'd do it for you. Okay, ready for my number?
Yeah, but you'd probably want a favor in return, Brad. You're
No.
like these broads around here.
No, you want my number one? You ready for it?
I do, Brad.
And now, Big Finish, Brad's number.
John is going to make fun of this because he's going to say, once again, Brad brings up the same topic he talks about all the time. But here's what's interesting. Maybe this is an example of how AI from my phone and my computer and things that I search and stuff like that is now essentially sending me ads for companies. In the last 2 days, I've gotten 3 ads for personal body cams. Remember I talked about this? I said that...
Oh, yeah, Brad. That's pretty cool.
Well, now, John, one of them was that I got last night, which was pretty interesting. It's like this small little unit, and it's not necessarily being billed as marketed as a body cam, but essentially as a POV cam. You know what the POV thing is all about. And essentially, it's
point of view, yeah.
It's a small camera, and it has a magnetic base on it, and they send you 2 different things. They send you a lanyard, which has like a little piece of steel on it, and you put the lanyard around your neck, and then the body cam sticks to the piece of steel on the lanyard, or they send you just a piece of steel, and you can take that. And if you've seen sometimes people have with ID badges, like sometimes when I see this when I go to the Chamber of Commerce, the ID badges, and what you do is you put the same thing. You have a magnet that goes behind your shirt, and so in other words, you don't have to poke a hole in your shirt or anything like that. Okay, if let's say I met you for lunch and I showed up with my POV camera, whatever you want to call it, would you be uncomfortable about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd tell you to take it off and put it back in your car, or else we could just get together a different day.
Why would you do that?
Because if I'm sitting down with somebody, I'm having a private conversation with them, and I'm not performing if I'm having lunch. Now, in general, Brad, I'm not desperate to sit down with people. So if you get an hour with me, you've passed an exhaustive screening system. But like if you're Brad Hildebrand, I don't care if anybody records me. They can do that. That's great. I'd love to. Okay, whatever. But like I think normal people are uncomfortable with someone recording them because then you're suddenly putting on some sort of a performance.
John, I will make a prognostication right here, right now. I say that the personal body cams, the POV cameras, whatever you want to call it, are going to become more and more popular because of the fact that A, people can, use them as their content, you're the content creators, but B, more importantly, people can document how they're being treated by other people, especially government workers. Like if I would have my little POV camera on when I went and had my little altercation with,
in Warren County.
In Warren County, people would see that and go, "Oh my God, that gal is really nasty. She's a terrible person." And the I think what you're going to see within the next couple of years, when you walk into government office, there's going to be a sign that says, "No weapons, no body cams." I'm telling you. You think I'm kidding?
Yeah,
I'm not.
I could see that because and they probably wouldn't say body cams, but it would say something of like some sort of recording device. And the excuse that the governments will use is because it's to protect the identity and the safety of everyone or whatever, right? But to your point, maybe it's because they don't want to be documented how they treat people.
John, can I tell you a story which I've never told before? And
Yeah, that's the first.
there's only 3 people in the world that know this story, okay?
Okay.
My daughter is an attorney. And one day, I went to watch her in court. And this is probably maybe about 8 or 9 months ago. I won't say what court it was. And I was so proud of my daughter. And this was before court started. And I picked up my phone, and my daughter was across the room. She was sitting like up in where the jury people sit. If you know anything about civil courts, a lot of time when you go to civil courts, the attorneys, when there's like a cattle call for all the attorneys, they sit in the jury box because that's, because the seats aren't being used because there's no jury. So my daughter was in the jury box. I picked up my phone and I took a picture of my daughter, and the bailiff saw me do it, and he came over and dressed me down. And the interesting part of it was, my daughter did not identify me as her father. My daughter identified me as a client. And the attorney, and because I think she was too embarrassed to say I was her father.
Yeah, of course.
And instead, she identified me as a client, which wasn't the case at the time. Or maybe it was. I'm trying to think. I don't know. It doesn't make any difference. But she wouldn't identify me as a father because she was too embarrassed. Here I was, a proud father, taking a picture of my daughter, the attorney, in court. And I could have gotten a contempt of court citation for that.
Brad, sarcasm aside, why did you think it would be okay to take your camera out, use your phone and take a picture in a courtroom? Like, you know better than that, right?
But there was the court had not started. There was nothing going on. The judge wasn't even in the room. It was just.
Yeah, but okay. I mean, you know that you don't take your phone out and take a picture in a courtroom. Like, wouldn't you say that most people would deem that common sense?
But John, there's a difference. The difference between most people and me, you know what the difference is?
Common sense.
I am a journalist. I'm a journalist,
Oh,
John.
that's right. Brad, would you describe your 2 degrees as
worthless?
Do they have worth, or are they worthless?
Worthless 2 degrees. And I'm telling you, because what was interesting about that was, I also believe in life after death, and I believe in ghosts and stuff like that. As I was leaving that courtroom after being admonished by the bailiff, I was walking down the hallway.
Who came up to you, Brad? And was he an immigrant? And did he get 1 inch away from your face?
It was a ghost, and it was Dr. Camille Winder.
Who's that, Brad?
My professor of journalism at SIU Edwardsville. And all of a sudden, it was like a puff of smoke came out of a heat vent, one of the ducts, and he got right up in my face, and he says, "Brad, I'm proud of you. Keep doing what it takes to be a journalist in this country. Remember, I came from Czechoslovakia, where I got thrown out of the country, and there was a warrant, a bond on my, what do you call it? A bounty on my head, and I trekked across Europe to come to the United States to be a professor and profess importance of journalism. And what you did, Brad, was, as we say in Czechoslovakia, excellente."
I loved it. And then he said, and one day the Alumni Association will declare you dead.
Yes, he did.
And then with a plume of smoke, hemp smoke, that is, he was gone.
I don't think Dr. Winter was into that kind of stuff. But, okay. So John is a no for the POV cameras, then, right? That's what you're saying?
Oh yeah, like if I thought somebody had on one of those, tell them to put it back in the car, or we're not having lunch, and I'm not speaking to you again.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Okay. See, John, that was a story I've never told before. How about that?
Yeah, very rare, Brad. Mark it down. The day before September 11th. I think everybody's going to go to the steps of the Capitol and sing tomorrow.
You think? Okay.